exponential functions are, their characteristics including domain, range, and key points, how this function looks when it is graphed, and how to move the graph through translations and reflections. Also, we're going to explain some examples of exponential growth in real life, like the Chernobyl accident. This accident happened on April 26 in 1986. The Chernobyl nuclear station located in Ukraine suffered a major accident. The accident destroyed the Chernobyl 4 reactor, killing 30 operators and firemen within 3 months, and several further deaths later. This had serious radiological, health, and socioeconomic consequences for the populations of Belarus, Ukraine, and Russia, which still suffer from these consequences. It hasn't been possible to contain the nuclear energy in substances generated by the nuclear reactions because nuclear energy spreads very fast in the environment, and to prevent a disaster, you need to have the correct shelter for it. In the case of Chernobyl, it happened so fast that people could not control the output of this energy. What makes nuclear energy to be so dangerous is the possibility that a nuclear power plant could accidentally release radiation into the environment or to be targeted for a terrorist attack. A nuclear reaction generates an exponential growth of the atoms because of the chain reactions. A chain reaction refers to the process in which neutrons are released in fission and produce an additional fission and at least further nucleus. This nucleus in turn produces neutrons, and the process repeats. Currently, there are still remains of the particles and substances released by this explosion, but over time these particles will eventually disappear.
I'm going to explain another 2 cases in which exponential growth happened in real life. One of them was the Fukushima nuclear accident. This plant is located in the Pacific Ocean coast. First, the government has a 3 kilometers radius population to evacuate. Then this radius expanded to 20 kilometers, and from 20 to 30 were told to stay indoors. After several days, like 16, population from an 80 kilometers radius were told to evacuate their houses. We can see how the exponential growth happened since the damage was each time bigger because the atoms that were released to contaminate the air were released exponentially. Exponential growth is also very common when we talk about population growth because the bigger the population gets, the faster it grows. Even though population haven't grown as a perfect exponential function, when we see a graph of how population is growing, the most visible line is like an exponential function. So what is exponential growth? Exponential growth is a model for growth of a quantity in which the rate of growth is directly proportional to the quantity presented. So here we can see how the form is. The form is y equals a, that is the base, to the exponent, which is x in this case. The key points are 0, 1 and 1, base. The domain will be always from negative infinity to infinity, and the range will be from the asymptote to the infinity, either negative or positive.
Some advantages of the use of nuclear energy is that it causes a low amount of carbon dioxide. It uses technology that is already available, and with one plant you can make and produce a lot of energy. Some disadvantages are that a solution for radioactive waste has not been found yet. Also, nuclear plants are targets for terrorist attacks. It uses uranium, that is a scarce resource. Also, it takes a lot of time to build these plants. A lot of accidents like the one in Chernobyl caused by a meltdown can happen. Since even though the production of carbon dioxide is low during the process, radioactive waste is still a problem. If humans found something to do with that waste, maybe it can become a clean energy. Something that we didn't know was that here in Mexico there is a nuclear plant called Laguna Verde. It is located in Veracruz. We don't think that it is safe because a meltdown or a terrorist attack can happen, and that will expose the population to radiation and cause health problems. We don't agree to the fact that this plant is in Mexico. This plant produces only the 4.5% of the energy used in Mexico, and we believe that there are less risky ways to produce more energy, just like the other 95.5%. Chernobyl disaster could have been prevented because the operators that worked at night were poorly trained. After the accident happened, there was no way to stop the radiation because it spread too fast.
We believe that radiation didn't reach Mexico directly through the cloud, but mostly through the elements that were exported from Europe.
4 of the consequences of the Chernobyl accident were that The radioactive iodine contaminated a lot of plants, grazing animals, and the production of milk. Then the water got contaminated by the radioactive waste close to the reactor but reached a lot of parts of Europe. In plants and animals, there was an increase in mortality and a decrease in production. And in what people are getting progressively smaller amounts of radiation through food, they're getting that radiation from the forest products.
The environmental consequences in a global scale of other nuclear disasters and the use of nuclear weapons divided into four. The instantaneous effects that are released heat literally vaporize all human tissues. Then, the near immediate causes would be that people would die indirectly from the collapse of buildings and some firestorms, also fatal burns and blinded people and bleeding. The short-term effect would be that survivors would be now affected by the radioactive fallout, causing hair loss, bleeding, internal bleeding, hemorrhagic, ulcers, fever, and many other consequences. Finally, the long-term effects would be that a lot of people will suffer from different cancers, often over 20 years later, and children are more likely to be born with abnormalities.
We feel and think that even though nuclear energy is eco-friendly because it doesn't release big amounts of carbon dioxide, if an accident occurs, it can be very harmful to the environment and to society. So our solution, since a lot of nuclear accidents have happened because of the lack of training of the workers, we believe that the workers should be totally capable and trained to work with these machines. Also, we believe that the amount of energy created by nuclear plants could be created in some other way, and if that is possible, we believe that should be done.
We think it was complicated to work with people in different campus because we didn't have the same schedule, but we think it was a really good work because it made us get a chance to look at how work's gonna be when we're older.